All right, we're on. We're on the Speak Your Truth with Mark Ross podcast. Good evening, everybody. My name is Mark Ross, and with me this evening, I have Miss Patsy Roach with me to talk about online scamming. This is a very interesting topic because I never took the time to really think about this, as it happens to damn near everybody, but I never really took the time to go in depth about it. So I met up with Patsy, and this is what she do. This is her lane. So I wanted to have her on so she can talk about this particular issue because it's deeper than what we realize. Am I correct in assuming that, Patsy?
Yes, it's crazy, it's scary, and it's just awful.
So before we get started, Patsy, just tell us a little bit about.
Well, I'm 61 years old, not looking to date anybody, but in 2016, I was curious about online dating. So I thought I would just take a look at it. And the very first guy that contacted me turned out to be a scammer. Now, I never sent any money. It was just emails back and forth. And to me, the emails were just a little weird because there was a lot of like love bombing and how, said he was supposedly in the army and he's going to retire in 3 months and he'll move anywhere he finds his woman of his dreams. And my first thoughts were, I don't want you to move here if you don't have any friends. You'll smother me.
That part. That part.
Yeah, so I mean, it just kept going on, and then I finally decided because I ended up getting rid of him when I found out he was a scammer. I had a lady at work explain all this to me, and I'd never heard of it before. But it was a thing that just kept going on other dating sites, Twitter, Instagram, and I just started saving the messaging screenshots and posting them on a blog. And I started the blog in fall of 2016. And it's grown from there to a podcast and to a TikTok.
I was just going to ask what got you involved into this gaming, but I guess you answered the questions in a row.
Yes, yes. And
So,
I also have a full-time job during the day. I'm a secretary. So I do all this when I'm not working. So it's like I have two jobs almost.
okay. So when you talk about the scamming piece, how did this guy from Africa try to scam you?
Well, actually, this first guy didn't. He sent a picture, showed it to my coworker, and I said, "Oh, look at this guy I'm talking to on Match.com." And she goes, "Is he in the army?" And I go, "Yeah." She goes, "Oh, he's a scammer." I'm like, "What do you mean?" So that's when she explained all this to me. So when I came home that night, I Googled his picture and it came up scammer. So I didn't even give him a chance to get very far. I right away shut it down, told him I just found out you're a scammer, don't talk to me, and then I blocked him. But then it became a regular thing, and then I decided, well, let's see what happens and let's play with them. And that's kind of like I was only on Match for a short while, then I was on Our Time, same thing there. And the big one was Plenty of Fish, which I referred to as Plenty of Fakes. And it was like tons of guys, and at that point I was using my real name, well, my first name. And then it was later on that I decided I don't want to use my name. So I used the name Suzanne Sugarbaker, which is from the TV show Designing Women. She was one of my favorite characters in that show. So I go by Suzanne and I use many accents because I do videos. I talk to scammers. Actually, right now I talk to them on my TikTok lives every night. I do a live every night. And I play the game and until they ask for money, gift card. And I do this with a very crazy sense of humor. I do
Uh-huh.
my favorite accent is my New York one. I was doing a Southern one for a while. And I just play with them. And it's what's amazing is, which is why I like everybody to listen to and watch. You'll get a good laugh, but you'll see how quickly these guys fall in love with me. And eventually it'll be like and love bombing, the love bombing starts, and it's
What do
not,
you mean by love bomb?
oh my gosh, oh, you're so beautiful. Well, they'll start out, the first message will be, hello, beautiful, hello, lovely, hi cutie, stuff like that.
Okay.
And then the next part will be like, well, one guy wrote me, well, gosh, I can't believe of all the men in St. Louis that you haven't been taken by now, or it's just a lot of heavy, sweet talk. And you can see all that on my blog with all my screenshots. But I mean, and on my videos, you can hear it, and I play along. I'm like, yeah, I'll play along. Mainly so, like I said earlier, so that people can hear this is what these guys sound like. I have a guy like a couple of weeks ago, within 30 seconds, asked for a gift card. And it was the first time we talked.
Wait a minute.
And
He asked for a gift card.
gift card is a big thing with them. Because it doesn't matter what kind of gift card it is, because there's a place they can go online and sell it for the cash. Now, the US dollar is worth a whole lot more over in Nigeria.
Yes.
So the standard amount is like $500 gift card. I have fake cards that I send them that have nothing on them. And so I'll send those, and $500 is worth like 592,000 naira, or whatever their dollar is called. So it's worth a whole lot more. So they take these gift cards, sell them online, and they get the cash, but they get more than 500 American dollars. Theirs is worth a whole lot. Ours is worth more over there. Is that right? Anyway, in their exchange, so,
The
and
script
then
is longer. Yeah, for sure.
yeah, so they always know. I've had a couple of them who'll give me bank account numbers, which I love, because I have a form letter I send to the bank. Usually if it's a nationwide bank, I send it to the local St. Louis branch, but I'll just say, look, this guy gave me these bank account numbers, and I have that letter, and then I have a screenshot of the bank account and who this person that sent it to me. And I talked to my bank guy last week. I had to go there for something. They don't know what happens. They just send it to the fraud department. But he says chances are they probably keep an eye on the account or close it. Actually, I had an FBI lady tell me several years ago, the bank's probably closed the account. Now, when I get these names, because it's chances are they're probably being used as a money mule, these people with the accounts, where the money will get sent to them and the scammer will say, okay, you keep this much and then send the rest to this other account. Kind of like money laundering in a way, but
sounds pretty fishy.
It's very fishy. And if you're a money mule, you can go to jail for a couple of years, at least. So I have a subscription to Ben Verified and White Pages. So I've actually reached out to some of these people, and I do it on my live. I do all this on my live so everybody can see what I'm doing. Oh, I thought you had a question.
I want to ask you a question about that, because
yes,
that raised an antenna for me. You talk about your podcast and how you speak with these guys. What's the name of your podcast? And give us a breakdown about what it is, and give me an example of what you've done to pretty much catfish the catfishers.
Okay, so on my podcast, I actually have guests, usually somehow either a successful the name of the podcast, of course, is Pink Lady Against Scammers. And in case anybody doesn't know, I have pink hair, and that's one of the reasons.
Yeah, you do.
Yes, pink is my favorite color. So, but on my podcast, like I had a lady who was from the North Carolina Bureau of Investigation that was like my second guest when I started, who works with financial scams. She found me and was asking all kinds of questions. I also had a lady lawyer from St. Louis who works for the Eastern District of Missouri, who I met through someone else, and she came on and talked about stuff. And then I recently had someone on who has a successful online dating story. I had another lady about self-publishing and some of the scams that are involved there. I've had a couple ladies on who actually told their stories of how they were scammed because they want everybody to hear it. I had one lady, and most of these people now I meet on TikTok. One lady wanted to tell her scary online dating story. She's fine, but it was scary as, it was creepy and it was scary. So I mean, in the beginning I did upload like audio conversations of my chats with the boyfriends, is how I refer to it. And but now it's mostly guests. I'm actually going to start having guest co-hosts to be on my podcast and ask questions. I have videos out about that. I've had a couple people already sign up. I'm just waiting to get some podcasts scheduled. I have one lady I'm waiting to hear back from. But that's mostly what my podcast is, and sharing any new information. It's my TikTok is right now is where I do everything. I do post stuff on my blog, but my TikTok, I do lives every night, and I actually talk to these guys. And when I find out new information, like what I heard at the bank, actually, I have an interesting story from the bank. When I was talking to the guy at my bank, he said a little while ago, he had some guy come in to deposit a $10,000 check, and it was from a lady in England or Ireland. Well, the banks all know, so they ask questions. So he's like asking him, "This is it'll help her to move over here." So this guy started asking, "Well, what about this and this and this?" And he's like, "Yeah," and he goes, this person is a scammer. Chances are it's a guy pretending to be a woman. And although there are some women scammers out there, but chances are, she said so the guy looked real disappointed. He did not deposit the check and he left. So banks are aware of all this, and they are keeping an eye when people come in with these big size checks from out of the country. At least my bank is.
Yeah,
I
mine
assume
too.
they all are. Yeah, I assume they
Mine
all
too.
are.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
one thing about banking, which is great, is that the bank that I'm with, they'll send me a notification if some scamming or theft is going on. They'll send me a text saying, "Hey, have you
Yeah.
purchased or attempted to purchase said object or whatever?" And no, I did not. But
Yeah.
the part that sucks for me is I have to cancel my card and go to the bank and get another card. So I have to go to all the people that I do business with, give them my new information, and we have to start all over again.
I
But
have a ton of streaming, and reason I went there was to get a new debit card. And so, and then I come home and I have my list. Okay, I got to go in each one of these accounts and change, And of course, today one went through, it didn't work. Well, that was the one I forgot to change my card on.
yeah,
But
yeah,
but I mean,
it
it's
happens to me too.
just but it's what's scary about all this is there are women out there who've sent hundreds of thousands of dollars to these guys. I have several stories. I don't know if they're still out there. I switched my blog over to a different service, and unfortunately, it wouldn't transfer, so I had to copy and paste everything. But I was checking links, and some of these links weren't working anymore. But I have some stories out there that I have friends who send me stuff. Hey, look at this. You should put this out there. And about, one lady gave like a couple million. I mean, and they go after the older, vulnerable women who are probably very lonely, widows, don't have anybody to keep an eye on them. They go after people like me who are heavy. They'll go after just like people who they just think are very lonely,
Right.
who don't hear all this sweet talk very often or at all. And some of them are very good at it. I mean, I know the game. And some of them, they suck at it. And I've done this a couple times recently. And I'm talking to this guy, and it's like pulling teeth. And I said, "Dude, you got to go back to scammer school. What are you talking about?" I go, "Because you suck at this." I go, "I've talked to other guys who are and I would love to know what some of these guys think when they hang up with me, because I'm a maniac on that, and I got the videos to prove it."
Right.
And I'm all about humor. I feel when you educate with humor, that's really, really fun. And I get a lot of messages from ladies. "Oh gosh, I wish I met you a year ago. You taught me so much." And I work with a couple other creators on TikTok who do the same thing, but in their own way. And so we all kind of come together. We had an incident a couple weeks ago. This one scammer went after me and three other creators, and he did these videos of using our pictures saying, "We're wanted by the FBI and Walmart." And I mean, everybody knew it was fake, but there are people on Instagram who come after us.
Yeah.
I get one night I got my account reported when I was doing a live, and my mouth was good that night. I wasn't saying anything bad. And all of a sudden it's like and I don't know what I did. And the problem with TikTok is I love it, but they won't give you the exact thing that happened. They won't say, they'll just say, "Well, you violated community guidelines." It could be, well, you said something about sex, or you said something about, and it's like, no, I didn't that night, so they're not
Mhm.
real clear on their reasoning, but I mean, that happens to several of us. I mean,
Mhm.
knock on wood, it's been good lately, but
Mhm.
I mean, we've got, and I don't care. I mean, my account, unfortunately, on TikTok has been duplicated about 9 or 10 times. And there's people out there pretending to be me. And one of them was a new one from about a month ago after that incident with the four of us. And, they started following my people. And one of them asked one of them for money. Well, they all know I never do that because on my TikTok, it says in caps on the front of my profile, I will never ask you for money. And plus I have 29,000 followers. These people don't have that many.
Yeah,
And so,
a lot.
so I mean, I get message after message, hey, this account's pretending to be you, and they contacted me. I
Yes.
go report it and block them. Now
Yeah.
I've reported these and TikTok says no violation, but they're pretending to be me. That's one of the choices. And they don't do anything about it.
Mhm.
I'm concerned because I don't want any of my followers sending this person money when it's not me. So, but I mean, most of the people that come in my lives know that that's not me. They'll message me, Patsy, is this your account? No, it's not. Block them. Don't
Mhm.
mess with them.
Yeah. No, I have a question.
Sure.
We're talking about online scamming. I think it's safe to say that you can also bring up uh, cyberbullying, blackmail, right? And I know we talked about that during our previous interview. So I want you to elaborate a little bit about the the prevalence of cyberbullying and blackmail, because people have actually like tried to take themselves out from this cyberbullying piece, right?
Yes, yes. One problem, and I say this all the time, please don't send these guys naked pictures of yourself because they will blackmail you. And I don't know if they can really do all that much, but it's scary to think that they could. There was one young man, I forgot how long ago it was. He's 17 maybe, and he was messaging with someone, thought it was a girl, sent a picture of himself. And this person was blackmailing him, and he ended up killing himself. I don't remember his name, but his mom has a TikTok, and I contacted her once to try to get her on my podcast.
Mhm.
So I mean that does happen because it scares people. I have one lady who just messaged me, and she's like, this guy's threatening me. I'm like, well, first off, go to the authorities. If you're in the United States, report it to the FBI. Go to your local police station. I don't know what they can do, but go to them. At least file some kind of report so they know. Um, and then there's also there's sextortion, which is probably in with the blackmail, where you're sending these pictures of the girls and they take them, and then later on they'll say, okay, I'm going to publish this. Or there are some married women who do talk to these guys. I've talked to a couple, and I don't
Mhm.
judge anybody, and that's
Yeah.
one of the reasons I think people like coming, because they know when they come to me and talk to me, I don't judge anybody. And I don't, does not bother me. I'm not
Yes.
taken aback. I've been around a long time. Nothing really shocks me. Well,
Yes.
almost, but
Right.
but the one lady said, she goes, I'm married and I'm afraid my husband will find out about this and he's going to tell her, tell him. And so I have a lady that I met on TikTok last year. She's from the United States, but lives in Ghana. She's a nurse.
Mhm.
She met a guy who ended up being a scammer, moved over there.
Mhm.
Well, she's been very helpful. When I get a lady who's really freaking out, I put her in touch with her name is Star. And she's able to talk to her, calm her down, and say, look, first off, they're not going to kill you. They're not going to come to your house. She knows a lot about this stuff over in Ghana, because that's one of the countries besides Nigeria. It's also the Middle East, India, China. It's kind of, there's some in the United States.
Yeah. Yeah.
But she's very good at calming their fears. I calm them as best I can. And then I get concerned, about, that's why I reached out to Star, because I started to get concerned. I'm telling them not to worry, but maybe they should. I was second guessing myself, and Star was like, I'll take care of it. Don't worry about it, and she has ended up becoming good friends with some of the ladies that I put her in touch with. But yeah, there's a lot of awful stuff, and I tell everybody, don't send out those pictures like that. Don't. It'll bite you in the butt eventually.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know.
yeah. It's kind of like duh, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, that's kind of how some people will comment on my videos. I can't believe people fall for this.
Right.
I understand that. I do. But don't beat them up for it. I said they're already going through a rough time. And one of the things that I'm always saying is, look, this happened to you. Don't let it take your life away. Don't let it take your soul away. You'll learn, you know the game. Help somebody else if they're in that predicament, because you're the subject matter expert now because you've been through it. Help others. I'm very big about, well, help others. Reach out to someone.
Yeah. Patsy, I want to read off some stats for you just to give our conversation a little bit more in-depthness, if I can use that word. People between the ages of 35 and 44, they get scammed the most. 20% of them get exposed by a scammer. 58.2% of that age range are likely to lose money from a scam. The U.S. has a cyberbullying victimization rate of 35.5%. Those are among middle and high school students. That's not a good stat to read, because we shouldn't have, it should be zero, in my opinion. It should be zero or like single digits or something like that. But 35.5, people may say, that number's kind of low, but I don't look at it as low, because there's people still being affected by this.
Yeah.
And when I see this type of statistic, that to me says people are in a position where they may harm themselves because they find themselves lost or trapped in a situation that they can't get themselves out of. You know what I mean? And because nowadays, back in my day, we didn't have this online beef, whatever this crap is. If we had issues with you, it was face to face.
Yes.
Or by click, or somebody from that click said something to this person over in that click. You dig what I'm saying? So
yes,
it was no taking their lives. It was just fighting and get it over with.
Yeah.
But now we're in a position where your information, your face, your body can be posted for the world to see in very compromising positions at times. How do we combat that? How do we combat that mess? Because, like you said earlier, people put themselves in very precarious positions.
Yeah.
And we need to think smarter.
Well, for the more older people, not the teenagers, but the older ones, a lot of it is about education. And I always think, and I have people talk to me about this. You think now everybody would know about the scams and the stuff. There's people that don't. I will every once in a while hear from someone, oh my God, I never heard of this before, which is, I never heard about it until 2016, and it's been going on longer than that. For the younger ones, I'm going to sound old fashioned. It's all about home training and how you're raised at home. I didn't have social media. I grew up in the 70s, and I was outside riding my bike. I was swimming. I was, home by dark or you get your butt kicked.
There it is.
I think a lot of it is about how you're raised, And I mean, my daughter grew up with just me because her dad moved away and, and she grew up, I had family and help, but I was lucky because she grew up to be such a good person. And she's finishing up college next year and she's had jobs. And I mean, she's just I'm blown away because I'm like, wow. But I go, for me, it wasn't just me. My parents helped, my family helped, my sister, my brother, my friend, if I needed a babysitter or, but I think, and it's not that you want to dump everything on the parents, but my parents, I think, did a good job. They put the fear of God in me in a way growing up, but they were fantastic parents. We may not have agreed on everything as I was older, but
Yeah.
up until the day they died, we had an excellent relationship. And I'm thankful how I was raised. I'm glad social media wasn't around when I was younger. I could have gotten in a lot of trouble,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
you
Mm-hmm.
know.
Yeah. What are some methods though that people use to try to scam people?
Well, the from what I see, because I get all my scammers on my Suzanne Sugarbaker Instagram account, and they'll follow me first, and then I'll follow them back, and then in a couple minutes they'll send a message, and it'll start out as a term of endearment: "Hi, beautiful. Hi, sweetie."
Mm.
And then as they ask a lot of the same questions. Do you live alone? Do you own
Mm.
your own house? Because the whole thing is they don't want anybody to know that they're talking to him, because they're afraid that someone will say, "Why are you talking to him? It's a scammer." So you'll hear in some of my conversations, they'll be like, "No, don't tell anybody we're talking." "Oh, no, I won't tell anybody." Little does he know he's on TikTok and there's about 30 or 40 people listening in, or
Wow.
it'll go out later on a video.
Yes.
And then there's like 3 steps. The first part is kind of like the introduction, getting in a little bit. The next part is the grooming, getting them to trust them. They're going to tell you how much they love you and that they just can't imagine living without you. They want to marry you. And
So
that
they want to
gets
butter
kind of,
you up, basically, huh?
yeah. And then come in for, "Oh, honey, I need help. I need a gift card. I need money." And women at that point will do it. And then the third part is that when it gets to the point where the ladies don't want to do this anymore, that's when they'll get threatening. "Well, I'm not going to talk to you anymore."
Oh.
And they're like, "Oh my God," and I try to empower women. I want them to be strong. I want them to not feel like I have to have a man. That was me in the 80s. I've told this story on my live many times. That's not easy to admit. In the 80s, that was my going out drinking and dancing. And I was desperate. I felt like I had to get married. Now I didn't get married till 96. And then I divorced 4 years later. But that I understand that part of them because I remember what that felt like. But as I'm older now, it's like, oh, I don't have time.
Yeah.
I don't have the patience. It
Yeah.
would just take a little bit for me to tell them, "Okay, go home, get out of," that's just me. But
Right.
I'm meeting other ladies on there who feel the exact same way. I said, I am content in my life right now. I really have been like this a long time. And, I work, love my job. I come home, I work on all this. I come up with more and more creative ways. I really get to put my thinking cap on. Okay, how can I make everybody laugh tonight? What can I say? All my stuff, all my scripts, if you want to call it, or some of them are repeats. A lot of it's spontaneous. I see how far I can take a conversation without getting in trouble on TikTok. And not that it's dirty or anything, but sometimes I just start yelling at them and then I get in trouble because you're being abusive. Well, I'm not being abusive. If you knew who I was talking to, and I'm not really abusive, but I mean, it's all about education and it's all about just, feeling good about yourself. And I know that's hard for a lot of people. It took me a long
Yeah.
time to get to that point.
Yeah. Yeah. Tell me a time if you've ever used the police or FBI or whoever to catch a scammer. Did you do that? And if so, can you talk about that?
No, I've never done that. But when I started my blog in 2016, I think it was in the beginning of 2017, the department that I worked in, I was the secretary in the IT department. So I was friends, I knew everybody in there. But the one cybersecurity analyst, she knew what I did. And she came up to me the one time. We said, you should print out all this stuff you've collected and send it to the FBI. And I'm like, oh, I never thought of that. So I went home, printed out messages, what these guys say, blah, blah, blah. And mailed it to the FBI in downtown St. Louis. 2 weeks later, I get an email from an agent. And she said, she goes, well, it's the first off, she goes, I just have to say, it's nice to hear from someone who hasn't sent money to these guys. And then she also was the one that told me, she goes, and also, chances are the bank's going to close out that bank account. Because I sent her ones where I had bank account information. So, I mean, I haven't done anything like that, but I mean, whenever I would have a question, I would email her, or I would refer people to her. Or I would send her, say, look at this, you're not going to believe this, even though she probably has seen it before. Unfortunately, she retired a couple of years ago. So I don't have her anymore. But I've got the lady lawyer from the Eastern District of Missouri. If I have questions, I contact her. No, I haven't participated in that, but I do everything I can to tell people, do this. You know, like if you have been scammed, go to the FBI, go to IC3.gov. That's where you can report it, but have all your stuff, you know, your dates, times, if you have messages, pictures, whatever you can. They can't get your money back, but at least they can start something and put it in their system. Because if 3 other people come in with the same story, same guy,
yeah,
maybe I like to be optimistic. I like to think that if some do get caught. I see stories every once in a while, but not all of them are going to get caught. You know, it's hard because they're in another country.
Nice. You mentioned some sites that you could utilize to search potential scammers during our interview. Can you talk about that and
yes,
talk about those sites?
Yeah, well, the one was the Dark Knight, but they charge now, so I don't use them anymore. Actually, they use crypto or something, so I don't use them anymore. But that was a good one that if you put in a picture, it would probably come up with close or exact matches and what, like their Instagram account, their LinkedIn account, all those. Now I still, which I've had for years, it's called the Reversi app, and I think it's free still, and you can search pictures. And that sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not so good. It depends. And then the other one is there's Google Image. That's another one you can use to search pictures.
Google what?
Google Image.
Image.
Google Lens. Sorry, Google Lens.
Okay.
Something like that. And I know people who use that as well. So I mean, I use those to search pictures and such.
Okay. Now, I agree with you that you really have to be careful, especially online, because I would get a lot of invites on Facebook. People would send me messages, hello, how you doing? Oh, I'm good. How are you? Well, I'm good. Have you heard about this world peace thing? And when I see that, I automatically block them because,
Yes.
but the sad thing is they use pictures and names of people that I know. So
Yeah.
I would be under the impression like, oh, okay, this is my guy from high school, right? And it will always start off, hey, how are you? And from there, how's the weather, blah, blah, just some general questions. And then they'll pop well, have you heard about this program? And I'm like, are you serious? Like, how did they get this person's picture and name and going around trying to promote this particular site or whatever? And it just boggles my mind as to the depths of how low people will go to really like get in your pockets. And there's a stat that I wrote saying that Facebook is the online environment with the highest share of cyberbullying incidents. This is Facebook. People use that every day of every hour, damn near. So if you talk about cyberbullying, how many people are being bullied?
It makes you wonder, I mean, when I think of cyberbullying, I think of younger people, but I'm sure it happens to older people. It hasn't happened to me.
It hasn't happened to me.
Yeah.
I'll be damned if I'm not even going to entertain the mess, to be quite honest with you.
I agree. I mean, Facebook, there is stuff that goes on in there. I get the occasional message request because I have mine set on private. So unless you follow me, you can't see all my stuff. But there's certain posts I make public, but not all of them. But I'll get this message, oh, hi, how are you? And I just block them and move on. But
Yeah.
if you go to like some news channel page or Ellen DeGeneres page or some celebrity and it's a real page, it's not a fake one, and I'll put something, oh hey, I love today's show. Thank you. I love this, whatever. I'll get a message saying someone replied to your post. Oh, okay. So I go and look at it and it's some dude and he'll say, oh, hi. Oh, I just love your picture. And, I was trying to send you a friend request, but it wouldn't go through. So I'm hoping that maybe you'll.
Right.
And I reply, scammer.
Right.
And that happens, not want to say all the time, but often,
All the
I
time for
did,
me.
yeah, I did have a friend who, well, her account, someone was cloned her account or got a hold of it. And she sent me a message and I was like, well, I haven't heard from her in a while because she moved out of state, but we still keep in touch. And the message was weird. So I texted her. I said, hey, Gina, did you create another Facebook account? So I sent her screenshots and she says, no, that wasn't me. I said, I didn't think so. I mean, you got to watch out for stuff on there too, because, like I said, if I didn't know her that well, but I mean, it's funny, you do get these messages and then 10 minutes later, the real person is out there. My account's been hacked. Do not reply to messages, and that's, I'm not going to what I've been lucky with that, but I've had other friends. Don't read the message. Don't reply, delete it, block them. It's not me,
Wow.
It's, you gotta keep your eyes and ears open when you're out there. And even with dating sites, somebody goes, what site do you recommend? I don't recommend any. I said, but use common sense, do your homework when you're there. My first piece of advice when you do a dating site, sure the guy lives in your area, not across the country or across the world. I'm like, make sure they live with whatever radius you'll travel in your state,
Yeah, that's deep because I never would have thought about dating sites as scams. I was thinking like dating sites as hookup opportunities or whatever.
Plenty of fish.
So
that's what that one is.
you know what?
Plenty of fish is a hookup.
Oh,
I get this one guy, and I don't know how many times he creates a new account. Do you like younger men? And do you like to do? And he starts mentioning stuff. So I block him. I haven't heard, not going what I haven't heard from him in a while. But he he was nothing ignorant thing. He would just say, well, I'd like to do this. Do you want to, be a friends with benefits? I go, I'm too tired. No, I mean, really, I'm not, I just blocked. The first time I said I'm not interested, and then he would message again, so then I blocked them.
right.
But I have my pictures out. I do use my pictures, except for Suzanne Sugarbaker. She wears a blonde wig, which is what I wear when I am going to FaceTime with these guys. I usually don't all the time, but I have a wig that I wear and black rim glasses instead of my pink.
Oh, wow, really?
Well, it started out last fall. It was around Halloween. And in the early 90s, when the movie Wayne's World came out, my one friend and I dressed up like Wayne and Garth for Halloween to go bar hopping. And I was Garth, and I still had the wigs. So I wore the Garth wig for a while, but it's in such bad shape. So in May, I finally went to Party City and bought a new wig. And it's beautiful, but it's hot.
Wow.
But I mean, when they want me to show, so those are the pictures you will see out there is me in the blonde wig. And even on Plenty of Fish now, I removed my real pictures and put the blonde one out there. Because beginning, I did have my name out there, just my first name, and then my real pictures. And then a couple months ago, I switched it and made it all Suzanne's pictures. And I have already changed the name to Suzanne. I don't get much there, but I'm not on it all the time. I don't pay. I'm on the free version. I'm just there. But if I page through and see a guy I recognize that was a scammer, I send a message. How you do it?
Wow. But really though, Patsy, I think that people need to be very mindful talking about the dating sites, especially women, because not only are we talking about scamming, but we're talking about, well, I'm talking about meeting someone and that person in turn becomes violent, because that can happen too. So it's not necessarily scamming, but you are being suckered, right? You're being lured to meet this individual, where when you do, the person might come off nice the first time or second time, but the real them is going to come out, and that real person is not going to be nice. So
check out the podcast episode. I did it last year. I have to look for the name of it, but it was a lady. I'll give a little story of it. She was living in Texas and she met this guy through online dating, and he was perfect. You know, they were together for quite a while. Well, her mother lived in one of the Carolinas and she was sick, so she had to go move there. He's like, I'll move with you, you know.
yeah, right.
Mom lives out in the middle of nowhere. And when they got there, the ugly side of him came out.
Flipped out. Yeah,
It's
yeah.
very bad. And you know, she goes into detail. If you get a chance, I mean, that was one of the most powerful episodes I think I had. The lady's fine. She's in Texas, has a new boyfriend. And the first thing she said when he met him, she goes, let's go down to the police station and get fingerprinted. And the guy was like, okay, you know, a real guy, a faker's not going to want to do that. But he's like, yeah, I'll go get fingerprinted. I never would have thought of that, you know, but she said that's what they did. And I have to check in with her. I haven't talked to her in a while. But I mean, I thought that was a clever idea, you know.
Nice. Does scamming does the scamming tactics differ from country to country? Because you mentioned that the bulk of the scammers are coming from Africa, and in particular, I think you said Nigeria.
Yeah.
So does it differ, or is it, hey, everybody can get it?
Everybody's the same. What's interesting is one of my friends on TikTok sent me, she got a copy. I don't know where she got it from, but it's a copy of the Nigerian Scammer Playbook. Now, the English, the typing, the punctuation drives me crazy. Even in their messages, I want to, because I'm a secretary, I'm very about periods and commas and everything being worded, spelled, you know. So when I read these messages online, when I'm on my TikTok, I just want to smack my head. I actually get a headache from watching the terrible grammar. But she sent this, and it gives you like scenarios. Okay, when you first meet them, I don't know if I sent you the link or not. It's in my Google Drive. I will send you the link.
Okay.
Because it's like 20, 30 pages. But it's like, you know, these are the nice things you say to them first. There's about 2 pages of that. And then you go to the next page. Okay, this is what you do now. And it gives you sample scenarios to tell about your family or your life, you know. And then it goes from there. And I mean, it was very enlightening. I put it out on the Google Drive because it was too big. It would have been too many pages for me to put on my blog. So on my blog, I just have a link. And as long as you have the link, you can access it. And you can download a copy for yourself, you know, because I started doing screenshots like every couple days, just a couple lines. And then I got busy doing other stuff, but I was putting those out on TikTok. It's like, I need to get the rest of them out there. It just to me.
Wow. Well, I've had a good time talking with you, Patsy, about this particular issue, because this is something that doesn't get a lot of airplay. People don't talk about this particular issue in its proper detail. That's just me. I think that we need to look more into this issue of online scamming, cyberbullying, and blackmailing, because people have harmed themselves. Like I said earlier, people have harmed themselves at the hands of selfish and mean people who take advantage of good people. I mean, it's a sad reality, but it is what it is, and it's just so unfortunate. But I'm glad that I've had an opportunity to meet with you and talk about this issue, and really, it's funny to hear you share the lengths that you're going to expose these suckers. Because we need more people out there like you, Patsy, to expose these clowns and show them show them as the clowns that they are and get them arrested.
Yeah, I mean, it's just funny because I work off my laptop, my iPad, and then I use my phone to talk to them. And I also stream on YouTube at the same time. And my followers are just hilarious. They'll type all this stuff in there. Say this, say that. You know, I had my one friend on YouTube say, "Tell them to bark like a dog." I mean, we get crazy on some of these. And I'll just be like, "Oh, you know what I really want you to do? Would you bark like a dog for me?" And then most of the time they'll be like, "Oh, dog." I go, rough, rough. And then they'll walk and people will be like, "Oh my God." Sometimes I call it musical night. I can't carry a note to save my life, but I love music. And I'll just start making up words to a song. And I had this one guy we were like singing back and forth to each other. It was hilarious. I just would make up, sometimes I would pull up a Beatles song, and start singing it very badly. What was the one song I pulled up? It was an AC/DC song and I sang it as an operetta, you know. And this one guy just kept singing back. And I had that the other night. This guy started singing back to me when I sang, but he was like, "Oh, Suzanne, I love you," and stuff like that. I mean, I was making up words too, but it just the lengths of some of the stuff when I ask them to do stuff, they'll do it, and I mean it gets fun on there. It gets crazy. It's a lot of work. Because there's some nights I had a couple nights where I just couldn't get anybody to talk to me. And then Sunday and Monday, I couldn't get off here quick enough because people, during the week when I have to work the next day, I only stay on till like 8 o'clock. I start at 6 and out at 8. But Monday night, I stayed on till like 9. And I'm like, "Oh my God." But they just kept calling me. And I'm just like, well, I don't want to pass up a phone call. I've got some I got to download. Because what I do is when I download them, I edit and put the ones where, just the sections where I've talked to a scammer, I put that out on YouTube and I put it on TikTok. On TikTok, if it's not too long, but all my videos are out on YouTube.
Okay, good. How can people reach you, Patsy?
Well, my TikTok is Pink Lady Against Scammers, and it's the one with 29,000 followers. The others are scammers. My YouTube channel is Patsy 3919, and my blog, of course, is pinkladyagastscammers.com. But I'm heavy onto TikTok usually. TikTok and YouTube are my big ones.
Okay, very good, very good. Reason why I ask is because I like to give people's information out, so if they have a question or a concern, they'll have that information to reach out to you, as I do with all the people that I interview. So that's the reason why I wanted to ask that question. So,
cool. Well, if you go to my blog, there's a contact form where you can send me a message. That's how a lot of people get. I have an email if anybody wants it. That's not a big deal. But I mean, I do have a contact form on my blog. You can fill it out. I get an email alert letting me know you got a message, and then I usually try to check it right away.
What's the name of your blog again?
pinkladyagastscammers.com.
pinkladyagastscammers.com. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Well, Patsy, it has been a privilege and an honor to speak with you this evening about this particular issue. I really enjoyed this topic. I like this.
Thank you very much.
We need more people out there like you, Patsy, to get this work done.
Thank you.
Yeah. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, I'm Mark Ross, and this has been another episode of the Speak Your Truth with Mark Ross podcast. Remember, self-care is important. So please make your mental and physical health a priority every day first. You guys take it easy. Patsy, you also take it easy, and you all have a good night. Take care.